Someone's hate, but you stood all alone. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever been betrayed? Labeled words you just can't say. Suffered silently, wanting to be erased. There's a reason to believe again when faith is nowhere to be found. Try to find the strength to try again and stand on solid ground. You keep searching for a hero. You just want to find a friend. You just want to make a difference. Bring this battle to an end. All the words that make you stronger. When you learn how to look within, 'cause you're the hero that you're after. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero. Have you ever wanted peace, to feel the freedom of release? Whispered quietly, but now it's time to scream. 'Cause mercy triumphs over judgment. Light will always shine in darkness. Ooh, and you won't get the best of me. There's a reason to believe again and stand on solid ground. Yeah. You keep searching for a hero. You just want to find a friend. You just want to make a difference. Bring this battle to an end. All the words that make you stronger. When you learn how to look within, 'cause you're the hero that you're after. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero, hero. You are the hero. Don't let them break you, take you down. You are the one who can turn this around. Yeah.
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful awakening planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Meetup with Marc live here on the Intuitive Prospector page. Hope you're having a great Friday. We're going to talk about a few things, and then we'll get into some live readings, I believe. So let me just get over to the Intuitive Prospector page. Good morning to my team. Good morning to my followers, my prospectors that join me every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to talk about the many journeys and challenges that life seems to throw at all of us, right? Life never asks us what we want. Life just happens. And so this morning, we're going to talk about a few things here. So give me just 1 second here, and we've got a couple people joining in from my meetup group. So hello to you. If you want to learn more about my journey, my events, my book of reading, you can go to marclainhart.com right here, or just internet search The Intuitive Prospector. That song this morning was, it's a new song. All my music that I play on my YouTube or social media pages or my podcast are always trademark free, royalty free. And so that song, got the hiccups more, jeez, excuse me, is Hero, then by Brian Todd is the name of the song, featuring Ashley Argota. So these are artists that I try to showcase on my work. People, artists that don't get paid probably a lot of money and just love their work and love what they're doing, just like I do. So all my music is always pre-approved through Meta for the songs that so there's no trademark or copyright, but it's called Hero. So if you like that song, you can go check it out by Brian Todd. All right, so give me one sec here. We'll get into this morning. We're going to talk about transparency. And when there's a lack of transparency, that builds conspiracy. And there's a lot of conspiracy out there. And I'm going to kind of break down and just go into some topics that I think would be worthy of metaphysical meetup with me live. So let me get over. Let me see if I can give some shout outs to who's joining us this morning. All right. So let me know where you're coming in from. You can just put in a comment. Good morning to Colleen. Good morning, Jane. Thanks for being here. And if you're coming in from a different part of the world, let us know where you're from. We do ask that if you come in and your comment, don't be one of those keyboard warriors that has, to offer a website or a spam, because you'll get blocked out of the community. And so we come on here Fridays to inspire, encourage, motivate, not to compete, not to, take you to somebody else's that's selling something. I try to use today, because social media is just so yuck. And so I really try to use social media as platforms for positivity, to send those vibrational, inspirational, positive messages out, for our world, because we are in the year of the 9, 2025. We are in the year of the snake. I'll be honest, it's been a long week. I've rehabbing my knee, so I'm a little tired and a little sore this morning. I got pretty beat up yesterday. Let's see, and the technology, our computers has not been. Somebody had said that there was a solar flare, a big solar flare storm. I don't know if that's true, but bear with me here one quick second. Everything is slowly opening up. Just needs more coffee. So grab your coffee, grab your tea. We're gonna have a chat this morning. I'll get into some live readings. I'll put the phone number. I do have my phone, my business line here. We'll also put in the Zoom link into the comment section. I'll do that right now. I'll go over to the Facebook page. So bear with me. Thanks for your patience. I am literally a one-man show doing all of this. So I do appreciate, unless people are sharing out, then thank you for sharing out or contributing. So I think there's too many tabs going on for my Wi-Fi. I think that's why things are being slow, if you will. So while we're waiting for that to load up, I do want to announce that we have a masterclass coming up. I was interviewed for a masterclass on how to manifest. And manifesting is bringing what's in our minds and our ideas and our creations and our stories and anything else that you are journeying for in life, and bringing that into your reality. So there is a free masterclass starting Sunday, February 2nd. It's going to run the 2nd through the 11th, and I will put that link in the hopefully put it in the comment section here, just because everything is being so slow. But what we'll do is we'll get the contact information in there, so you can come in and chat with me, let me know what's going on, ask for a reading, whatever is on your heart. Just remember, as a professional, I don't prescribe, I don't diagnose people. If it is a mediumship, that means we're connecting with loved ones that lived a life, friends, family, fur babies, that lived a life. So not connecting to angels or ascended masters or the inspirers or the Akashic record. I believe in all of those. I believe that that is definitely part of our journey, but it's just not something that I am trained to do or skilled with. But I've had many experiences with it. So we'll go ahead and get that Zoom link in. We'll also get the business line. Just look for my avatars that'll pop up in the comment section. There was another icon. But I appreciate you being patient with me while we work through some of our technology. There's that. And then I will also put in with the masterclass. This will be going out in my newsletter either tomorrow or Sunday. I'm going to try maybe even get it out today. But the masterclass link is also in there. It's a free masterclass. You just have to sign up through the newsletter. And I just put that in with Katie, who interviewed me. And so if you want to do that, it's free, and you'll get from the 2nd through the 11th. You'll be able to hear different people and how they've manifested. It's a masterclass on how to manifest, and that will be coming out in my newsletter. If I have time, I'll get it out today. So if you're not on my newsletter, you can go right here to marclainhart.com and sign up. It's under the where is it? The contact form or subscribe store. I got a couple different things, and I'll also put the events page in for you as well, so you can see what events are coming up. Because I do have some events coming up. No podcast this Wednesday. As we move into February, if you can believe that, we're going to be in February. I don't know where January was, but I'm glad January's over. January's always been a difficult month for me because it's the time when I had 2 family members move into the spirit world in January 5th and January 23rd. And so we always celebrate them, remember them. It's been 25 plus years, but it's still hard, right? If you've ever dealt with survivor's guilt, losing a family member, losing a sibling, it can be a tough time of the year. Plus in Seattle, it's rainy, and it's literally called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. There's a lot of rain, it's cold. So it's a good time to, get some vitamin D, go somewhere warm, or, get in a tanny bed, or, whatever, just to raise your vibration during January. So I'm glad that we're in the last day of January. But I do want to let you know, if you are a subscriber or a Patreon prospector, I'll put that, the events there if you want to subscribe. First Friday of every month. So next Friday, which will be February 7th, is Diamonds Day. So if you're a subscriber, Diamond Sub subscriber or Patreon, those links are on those pages that are open to my paid subscribers. This isn't for free subscribers because I have free subscribers as well. But first Friday of every month is dedicated to you, to the prospectors, to get a free reading, to get guidance, to maybe do a healing, a meditation, a sound bath, ask me questions, mediumship. And it's dedicated to 2 sessions. First is at 11:30 a.m. And then the following one is in the afternoon for different time zones, because I work with people all around the planet, 3 p.m. So 11:30 a.m. is the morning session, 3 p.m. is the afternoon session. And that is for my prospectors who are subscribed either through Patreon and or the Diamonds Hub, which is located here on Facebook. And again, I'll put those links in the comment section if you like. But let's talk about today. One of the things I've been just thinking about with everything going on, and there's a lot going on in our world, right? There's, and maybe that's why I'm tired too, because I can just feel, I can feel the energy of what's going on in society. And I'm not really too worried about what's going on in the world, because if you followed my journey, you followed my work, that I've talked about this I started talking about it, writing about it, podcast about it back in 2017. And what I see for our future is actually quite hopeful. I see the great coming together for our planet. And I've talked about this, I keep asking, I don't know if this is through a natural event, through Mother Nature, a global event, that something, comes from outer space, and that could be, it could change, super volcanoes. I mean, there's a lot of different fragilities and things that can change on a dime. I mean, I'm just, I've been thinking about, I've flown a lot in my life, and I used to work for the federal government several years, retired. No, I'm so happy I'm not. That's a blessing in disguise, not working for the federal government with everything that they're going through. But I've flown into DC on that exact same flight path several times. I've landed, and some of my most turbulent times was flying into DC and Denver. I remember one time we flew into DC, and we were so much turbulence. Somebody wasn't wearing their seatbelt and got thrown up into the ceiling, and the paramedics had to come on. That was coming to DC. So I know that flight path. So I was just thinking about that flight the other night that had the collision. You're just landing, you're about to land, and then all of a sudden your life ends, right? So, your life can change on a dime. And my heart and my prayers go out to all of those impacted, and the families, and the the helicopter pilots. And it's just a horrible event that didn't need to happen. But that is the chaos of our world, right? But we can still hold space for those that are grieving, for those that have gone through loss and tragedy and traumas, because this is very traumatic. And people are waking up today with a much different mindset and a completely different scenario in their life. And I was just thinking about, man, I have flown that exact flight path and have landed on runway 33. So I just just trying to be like, wow, at least if you're gonna, I guess if you're gonna go, that's a quick way to go, right? You're about to land, and then all of a sudden everything just in the physical life ends. But my heart goes out to all of those and our first responders, these heroes. And that's the song I played today because it reminds me, as a retired first responder, what they do to put themselves in harm's way. Police, fire, Coast Guard. I spent 8 years in the Coast Guard, so I know all about putting myself in the way of helping others at the expense of my own body. That's probably why I'm retired early from medical. But thank you to those first responders jumping in that cold 30-degree water. Ooh, darkness, just mangled metal everywhere. That is such a dangerous job, and I want to just say thank you to not just our first responders that had responded in the DC plane crash, helicopter crash, but just first responders all around the globe. There's first responders here in America, in Canada, Mexico. These are people that give their hearts. They sacrifice their lives, their bodies, their mind, their mental health each and every day to keep us safe and protected. And so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to all of our first responders, whatever that encompasses. All right. So hi, Jenny. Hi, Cara. Angelique said, I lost my brother on January 7th years ago. My condolences. Thanks, Angelique. Yeah, January, you know, I went through a lot of counseling to understand why I was feeling so bad in January, and it's survivor's guilt, right? And so I've had really good counselors and mentors help me be like, you don't need 1 month to get through the rest of the year. It's one day at a time, right? And so, but my condolences to you as well for the passing of your brother. But what you learn through these traumas and tragedies is the body leaves, the physical body leaves, but the person of who they are, the consciousness, the love, the connection that we all share continues on. It really does continue on. And I didn't, if you would have said years ago I'd be talking to you about this on a public platform or a podcast, I would have said no way in hell. But I love talking about it. I love writing about it. I love consulting with people to help them see the diamond within and the many hidden gems that are all around us. That's why I do what I do. And so my condolences to you as well, Angelique. But he's only ever a thought away, right? Hi, Lori. You got fired from work, so now I can be here. Lori, I'm sorry. Do you work for the federal government? I know there's a house cleaning going on in the federal government, but hey, I'm glad you're here. We'll get you arena day. We'll get you going. So thanks for being here, Lori. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Ramona. Let's see here. Hi, Chrissy. Good to see you. And then again, my team that's monitoring the comments. So just keep the comments uplift. Hi, Tara. Keep the comments bright. Keep the comments positive. We don't need, misery loves company, and there's a lot going on in our world all over the place. So this is our space to come in. This is our space to connect. I always say unity through community. And I'm here on most Fridays, unless I'm traveling or sick or having a surgery, which would not be too far off in the last 10 months that I've experienced. But I want to open up the show before we get into today's show. Today's topic is when you have a lack of transparency, that creates conspiracy. And I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of lack of transparency, and we as humans like to fill those transparency voids with conspiracies. And it's unfortunate. We're going to just see more. Social media has done that. Misinformation, disinformation. Even if you go back in time, if you go back to World War II, back in the 1940s, Winston Churchill I had talked about, and this was back in the 1940s. This isn't even today in 2025, the year of the snake, the year of the nine in numerology, which is all about completion and transformation and transparency. That's what this year represents in the middle of our roaring 20s, right? And, Winston Churchill would always say back in the 40s that a lie could get halfway around the world. And this was through the cable system, what am I trying to say? The transatlantic cable that went through the ocean. But even at his time, he would say the newspapers of the time, he would say that a lie could get halfway around the world before he had even a chance to put his pants on. So imagine what information real time is being thrown at us all the time. It's almost like doom scrolling. We just moved the world clock to closest that it's ever been to doomsday. I want to say like 89 seconds close to doomsday. But if you think about our world and our history, we're always this close to chaos, y'all. But we don't put our mindset there, right? We put our mindset and our energy and our focus and our words and our writings and our podcasts to something bigger and better than ourselves. Sometimes we don't understand that, the connection, whether you call it God or spirit or Gaia or our mother nature or the divine feminine or it just depends on what your connection is, what your belief system is, how you were brought up. And so for me, I found that Joseph Keel had said this, and then I'll get into the message, but he said religious and societal structures often perpetrate the idea that individuals are merely powerless beings awaiting the grace of some external divine entity. This notion can lead to a passive approach to life, fostering dependence on external validation and intervention. Again, external validation and external intervention. In reality, this perspective undermines the true essence of our being, of who we are. We have energy, we have logic, we have reasoning, we have an auric field, we have our senses, see it, taste it, touch it, hear it, smell it. We have the clairs, which are encompassed with our human senses, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairgustance, the tongue, clairaudience, clairfactory, claircognizance, right? We can use, and we have so much more, but he goes on to say that this perspective undermines our true essence of our being. The miracles we witness are not random acts of a distant power. Rather, they are the result of our own intentions and the energy we project into the universe. And it was Joseph Keel that said that. And it's, that's true. And so don't find yourself getting caught up in lack of transparency of what the government's not going to tell you, what the media is only going to sell based on, what sells, which is fear. Fear is currency. What's the narrative? What's the agenda? How can we, present these stories with sensationalism? And I see it across all the news networks now, the cable news networks, not so much local. But, it does create a lack of transparency. And when you have a lack of transparency with things, what that does is that can foster an environment where conspiracy theories thrive. And here's just a few examples, right? I've already seen conspiracy theories that this plane helicopter crash was intentional. There's no evidence to suggest that right now, right? We'll do our investigation. We have the video, we have the audio. It'll all come to. So wait that out. So when major events happen like this, be careful of the lack of transparency, but also be mindful and careful of filling that with conspiracy theories, right? To me, it just clearly looks they were using, infrared or night vision goggles, NVGs, NVGs. And that cuts down on the scope of what you can see. And if the helicopter pilot was saying, yeah, I see the plane. If you look at the video, you got two planes that are just stagnant or just, one's in front of the other. He was probably looking at this plane up here and didn't see the plane right here and crashed into it when he was supposed to go behind it, right? These accidents happen. And if you look at air traffic throughout how many planes are in the air, it's not surprising that it hasn't happened sooner. There's been very many close calls over the years, but it's been 24, 25 years since we've had a major disaster like that where there was a great amount of loss of life going into the Potomac. So, but be careful with transparency because social media is really good with cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance, misinformation, and disinformation. This is where you can use your system, your discernment, your intuition to be like, you know what, that just doesn't feel right. You may not get the answers right away. A lot of times information comes out after, but that's again a lack of it's a lack of transparency because sometimes we don't know, and then it's filled with conspiracy. So government secrecy, like I said, I'm now retired from the government, so I can talk open and freely and clearly about what I saw many years working in an oversight agency that didn't get things done, completely changed reports all the time, lied to the Congress, the senators, the Congress people, you the people, the Constitution. Because it didn't fit a political narrative, or it might, make a senator look bad, or it might, there is good work and oversight, and there is money saved, and people are held to account. But at the same time, the transparency is filled with a lot of bureaucracy, red tape, politics, who knows who, and that is, that you're probably seeing why there's a cleaning house of the federal government. And I'm glad that it was a blessing in disguise that I got out before I was able to retire, before all of this started coming down. If you work for the federal government, you know what I'm talking about, or you're in it right now. But government secrecies have been around for a long time, not just the United States, but world governments. World secrecies have been around, but when governments withhold information and decision based on policies or events, such as military actions or intelligence operation, which is the national security, and there's secret and there's top secret, and a need to know kind of thing. But when you have a lack of transparency to the people, it can lead to speculation and conspiracy theories about true motives or actions. And so, we've got corporate practices. We got companies that do not disclose their financial practices, product safety records, or environmental impact of what, we're killing our planet. You can see it with the storms. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that we're going to eventually see Category 6 hurricanes. We're going to see storms that are, we've already seen with the fires. We're going to see the rise in water. The planet is changing, and you don't need a scientist to tell you that. You can see it through your own eyes. You can see it through the news sources that whatever news sources you're watching. But the environmental impact, may, the lack of transparency may prompt conspiracy theories about unethical practices or price fixing or cover-ups or harmful products that are harmful to us as humans, which I think there's a lot of harmful products that are out there right now that are cancer causing, that are cause MS, that cause Parkinson's. I believe that's an environmental in the food we eat, right? If you go to Europe, if you've never been to Europe, you can't measure that, but the food in Europe is completely different than the food here in the United States, and makes me want to maybe go live in Europe, right? But when you have these lacks of transparencies, you fill them with conspiracies. And just like this plane crash, I've already seen some people theorizing conspiracies like, no, let's wait for the information to do the investigations to see that 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an accident. And accidents happen all around the world every single day. If you know about how many people on average die every single day, it's about 150,000 people around the world, which is about 6,300 every hour, which is about 105 people every minute, right? So people are coming and going. People are born, people are transitioning, and it just makes you wonder about the journey. What's your journey here? What's your purpose? What's your passion? What are your plans, if you will? So, medical research, lack of transparency in clinical trials or pharmaceutical testing, that has all come out in documentaries. If you know the journey of hydrocodone or oxycodone, like I did with my back injuries, we lived through that. We saw that. You saw doctors pretty much becoming drug dealers in white jackets, right? Because they were paid by the pharmaceuticals. Now, the conspiracy theories of COVID-19. It's been years and a lot of conspiracy theories, but it's coming out that top agencies are in agreement that it was leaked from a lab. And I never thought it came from a meat market in China. It just did not make sense scientifically, logically. It makes sense that they were working on something and lost control of it and it got out and it spread, right? That's scary too, but that's when you have a lack of transparency, you fill it with conspiracy, right? But medical researches, corporate practices, government, the pharmaceutical testing that can lead to public distrust and conspiracy theories about the safety and efficiency of medications and vaccines. We're seeing that right now with the new administration and getting people appointed, going through the congressional hearings, based on vaccines, right? And it's going to be a lot of turbulence over the next few years, is what I'm saying. But we also have historical events. Events like the assassinations. It's interesting that the paperwork is being released years later after JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King Jr. The lack of transparency on these assassinations of major political incidents often generate conspiracy theories where the details are not fully disclosed, and they're still not fully disclosed. The absence of information, stuff that's been redacted. So I'll give you the paper, but I'm going to put a big black line on it. And all you have is who it's to, what the date was, and signed sincerely such and such. That's redaction. That's not transparency, right? That is the absence of information can lead people to fill in those gaps, is what I'm saying, and with their own theories, how they were raised, their religious views, their political views, and even social movements now. We're seeing social movements where activists or social movements operate with clear communication or transparency about their goals and their funding, and it can lead to suspicious and conspiracy theories regarding their intentions and their affiliations. It'd be interesting to see. I don't really get into politics because I don't follow. I'm not a political person. I'm a Constitution person. There's a difference, right? because I raised my hand to defend the Constitution of the United States, not the left party, the right party, or the center party. But it's interesting, because if you were to take the money out of our politics, if you were to take the money out of who runs for president, and turn that money, get out of the dark money that who seeds politics and the agendas and the narrative and the control and the greed. It's interesting if you could take Citizens United out of politics and people, I'll never be president because I don't have enough money. I don't have enough support to run for president. It takes money to win the presidency. And if we took that out, it'd be interesting to see if we use that money instead of using 250 million to campaign for one person, use that 250 million to feed the hungry, to help the homeless, to create a world with technology and infrastructure that betters it for everybody, right? But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, and we live in an information age where there is a lack of transparency, and that is always going to be filled by conspiracy, unfortunately. So financial crisis, I'm sure some of you have gone through. I was part of the, before I joined the federal government, I was working for a bank here in Seattle doing competitive intelligence. It was actually quite a fun job. I got to do this intelligence of, mystery shopping among other banks and try to make our products more profitable. So I actually had a profile and would go around the country shopping banks. It was actually quite fun, kind of, secret, spy kind of work, but bring that information back and, presented up the flagpole of leadership so they can make decisions on rates and products and everything. But then, because of the financial crisis, the lack of transparency on the housing market, it crashed, and I became part of the biggest bank failure in U.S. history. The bank had been around for over 100 years, Washington Mutual, and it failed. And so I became a part of history as the biggest bank failure. And that's where I really started not trusting the information coming to me. It wasn't even political. It was more of the financial crisis in the banking industry. But during financial downturns, a lack of transparency in banking practices or government responses can lead to theories about manipulation or planned economic collapses. We see this all the time with conspiracy theories. So, environmental issues, when information about pollution or environmental hazards are hidden or minimized, it can give the rise to conspiracy theories regarding corporate or government negligence or intentional harm to communities. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this plane crash. What is the conspiracy theories that are going to be generated from this lack of transparency? And you see it every day. And, in each of these cases, the absence of clear, open communications allows speculation and mistrust to flourish, leading to the development and spread of conspiracy theories. And if you follow my work, you know that I have talked about the longest running conspiracy theory in mankind going hundreds of years back to cave paintings in Australia, cave paintings in France, thousands of years back, about that we're not alone in the universe. The conspiracy theory is we're not alone. That doesn't mean that extra dimensional beings come from outer space. They have been here the whole time, right? They have technology that we don't understand. They define laws of physics that we don't understand yet. And maybe we're not supposed to, but we fill that with conspiracy theories because there is a complete lack of clarity and a clear lack of transparency through the federal government going 75 years back, And so your government is not going to tell you. The media is not going to tell you. But crowdsourcing will tell you. There'll be a point where there's crowdsourcing, whether it's through the smartphone, TikTok, other social media platforms, where everything is happening simultaneously and everybody's covering it, and you can no longer deny that. I've always said that crowdsourcing would be the key to unlocking full transparency, and then also taken away from the conspiracy. So and I as an experiencer in the Coast Guard, my days in the Coast Guard made me a believer of we're not alone in the universe. We're not alone on this planet. We're not the alpha species that we think we are. But when you say that publicly, people are going to ask if you're crazy or do you have your tinfoil hat on? If you buy a box of aluminum foil, I was just sharing this with my development group on Wednesday. If you buy a box of aluminum foil, do you know that there's a free hat in every box? So if you understand it, you get it. If not, think about it. But here's some further insights into how lack of transparency can create conspiracy theories, along with additional examples of underlying psychological and social factors that involved with when you have a lack of transparency, you build conspiracy. The first one is the psychological factors. We're having a psychological warfare going on right now. In fact, one of the studies is how much information can they throw at you to get your attention? It's an attention meter. Like, are you clickbaiting on something so they can get your attention? So be mindful as you move forward, as I do. I've actually gone away from more social media, gone away from more of the news cycle, and I've just focused in on more local. I keep a pulse on what's going on in the world, but there's just so much information, and there's a psychological war that's taking place. They know this. They've done studies going CIA, FBI, the government have studies going back to the 1960s, 1970s, everything after World War II, about psychological warfare. It is literally a term. And, we use a term called cognitive dissonance. Maybe you've never heard of this word before, but cognitive dissonance is this: when people encounter information that contradicts their belief systems or understanding, they may experience discomfort. It may cause them to itch or to be uncomfortable with that information. So to alleviate this from a psychological standpoint, they might turn to conspiracy theories. Fill that gap of lack of transparency builds conspiracy. And this can provide an alternate explanation that aligns more closely with their existing views. That's cognitive dissonance. Again, there's many smart people that work in our government. They start recruiting at a very young age. I wasn't recruited because I wasn't a very smart guy growing up. I didn't have a lot of oversight for my journey as a small boy. I didn't have a lot of structure. I didn't have a lot of discipline. There are things that I didn't have to maybe understand that I would learn later in life that, yeah, I would graduate from college. I would go on to get graduate, degrees. I am pretty smart, but I didn't have that. But the government start looking at you at a young age, like how do you measure on a NASVAB score? How do you measure on an ACT score? And they start recruiting you very young to come in to their institutions, right? And then you become institutionalized and you live the culture of that institution. But we're seeing institutions starting to break down because of a lack of transparency filled by conspiracy. Need to control. Individuals often seek to make sense of chaotic and unpredictable events. Conspiracy theories give us a sense of control by suggesting that there is a hidden agenda or a plan, even if the plan is malevolent. It's interesting, but it is part of psychological warfare. Social identity. People, and you see this right now. Go to TikTok, go to Facebook. You see people gravitate towards conspiracy theories that reinforce their social and their political identity, right? Their identity is through the politics. Their identity is through whatever social program is happening, what's going on, right? And this creates in-group solidarity, that in-group solidarity, what I call groupthink, or following the herd, the sheeple, versus being an independent, mindful, awakened thinker, an intuitive prospector that's like, no, that I'm not going to follow that crowd. And then, I'd rather, be alone and be right than follow the herd off the cliff because I was following that group think, that in-group solidarity is where I was going with that. And then a shared narrative and that opposes the perceived out group. So you got an in group and an out group. You had it in high school growing up, you had a cool group, you had a not cool group. It's no different in society. You have an in group and an out group based on authority, but based on also your social identity. Social factors include, information vacuum in time of crisis, such as natural disasters or that plane crash that just took place in DC, public health emergencies, the absence of clear, credible information that can lead to speculation. During the days of the COVID-19, we all lived it. There was a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation, a lot of things filled with conspiracy. I was told that I would be dead in 5 years if I had the vaccine. Well, I'm still here. I hate to break that conspiracy theory, but I had the vaccine a couple times because it's modern medicine and I work in medicine. And I didn't listen to the narratives. I didn't listen to the conspiracy theories. I trusted my own intuition. That is the journey of life, is to trust. You came into this world alone, so shall you return. Trust your intuition. And I work in medicine. And so, yes, I got the vaccine. I did get COVID. I ended up having COVID after, a few years into it, but that's also a natural immunity response from my body. But people are like, oh, you're going to die. Well, I didn't die. I'm still here. So that conspiracy is proven wrong, right? But it's filled with, that information vacuum. And, COVID-19, the lack of transparency about the virus origins and the spread gave rise to numerous conspiracy theories, including that it was, a conspiracy theory that it came out of Wuhan from a clinic there in China that was, they were working on something that got out, versus not a meat market where some people were eating bat. That didn't logically make sense to me. But I'm not saying it can't happen. But what it does is you start to develop this mistrust in institutions. And when institutions, government, media, corporations, they have a history, y'all. They have a history. And I'm sure even with this video, they'll be like, oh, you need to take this guy's video down. He's speaking truth. Well, there's a history of dishonesties, and I've seen it at my level. The scandals that I would witness in facilities around the country, or even internally to the Inspector General's office. It doesn't surprise me that 17 Inspector Generals just got fired. Because they don't want oversight. They don't want that administration doesn't want people looking into what's going on. But at the same time, there's also mistrust in these institutions because there's a lack of transparency, right? And this lack of transparency, it's going to lead people to assume that any lack of transparency or any wrongdoing is fostering conspiracy thinking, and that's where we're going to continue to go. I think social media has had a lot to do with that. So, when you have a lack of transparency, just know that you start to fill that void, that vacuum, like I said, of filling it with conspiracy. And so this is a good time to move into your intuition, to move into who you are, not listen to what other people. Everybody's always going to have an opinion. I can't remember if it was Plato or Aristotle said the only way to not be judged is to not do anything, be anything, or say anything. So you're always going to know that this world is going to judge you regardless. But the journey is to know thyself. The journey is to find the diamond within, and take bits and pieces of information as they come in, but don't drink from the fire hose and then get caught up in a conspiracy theory because it was just a lack of transparency. You didn't have a need to know, or they thought that the public couldn't handle it. I think that's why we don't know, first contact and our connection with extra-dimensional beings, because they think the public can't handle it. Maybe they're right, but we still have a right to know. And lack of transparency in that topic creates many years of conspiracy theories. But like I said, for me, it's not a conspiracy theory because I was an experiencer of what I saw. And what I saw back in the 1999, 2000 era, it wasn't drones. That technology didn't exist. It moved beyond the laws of aerodynamics, gravity, physics, and it had an interaction with me that let me know that it was an intelligent, loving experience, not something to be feared of. And so from that day, I became an experiencer. But as an experiencer, if you've never experienced, all you can do is just take my word for it, or hear my story, right? But you are the sum of your experiences, and when you have your experience, you'll know. It's funny how if you have your own experience that's spiritual or a connection to something bigger than yourself, people can say, oh, they were having a hallucination, or the great imagination. But if we read in a book from 4,000, 3,000, 2,500 years ago, we call that religion. It doesn't square with me. It doesn't make sense, right? But mistrust in our institutions, additional examples, 9/11, the events around September 11th has spawned numerous conspiracy theories due to the perceived inconsistency of the official narrative, the government actions, the subsequent wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, climate change. Some conspiracy theories emerge around climate science, often fueled by a lack of transparency in how the climate data is even collected, interpreted, communicated, leading some to question the motives behind climate policies. Election integrity. In many elections, there's claims of fraud and manipulation that arise to gain that power, particularly when the transparency is in the voting process or it's lacking. This can lead to widespread belief in conspiracies regarding election outcomes. Like I said, the pharmaceutical, the surveillance and privacy of what we do as citizens. Government surveillance programs, when conducted without public knowledge, which does take place, or transparency in that, can lead to beliefs that there is a broader conspiracy to control or manipulate the population. Like I said, I've got 23 plus years of federal experience, and I can tell you they exist. They are out there, and if they get caught, it's oops, sorry, there's no consequences to the actions, right? And again, I worked 14 years for an Inspector General's Office of Oversight, and I saw a lot of nefarious things that I didn't agree with. And it's sad. It's sad. It's disappointing. It's scary because it hurts people, and a lack of transparency creates conspiracy. So I'll leave this with you. We'll get into the reading room. Just in conclusion, the interplay of both psychological needs, social dynamics, and specific examples that I just talked about today illustrates how a lack of transparency can serve as a fertile ground of conspiracy theories. I believe that open communication, accountability, and public engagement are essential into countering this tendency and building trust back in authorities and institutions. And if we don't, I'm not that doom and gloom psychic medium that projects the end of the world. But if we're moving the clock, the doomsday clock is now officially moved by scientists to the closest that we've ever been to an apocalyptic doom of the human species. You better sit up and take note. That means that they're seeing a lot of different things that are going on. And if you followed my journey, I said years ago, I wrote about it, I've talked about it, I've podcasted about it. It would not surprise me to see another World War III. It would not surprise me to see another revolution within this country, or a civil war based on ideology splitting, based on social media creating division, and everything that I talked about with lack of transparency builds conspiracy. And I think if we don't change that, history teaches us if we don't learn from our past, we're due to repeat it. And I believe that's where we're at. But I also see a lot of hope after this chaos that we go through in our roaring 20s. The roaring 20s of transformation that I've always talked about and written about and podcasted about will be looked back by historians, because there's going to also be some amazing things that take place in the new industrial revolution, if you will, through robotics, through AI, through quantum computing, through quantum physics, through quantum mechanics, through spiritual awakening, and who we are as individuals in this world and the abilities that we have as humans. So think about that on your journey. Trust your intuition, trust your discernment. Don't believe everything that you think, and don't take in everything as the word of gospel, because there is a lot of cognitive disinformation out there. There's a lot of gaslighting. If you're not familiar with that, you can go listen to a past podcast I did, Inspired Living, talking about what gaslighting is. And remember, when you're no longer manipulated, y'all, that's where rejection comes in. If you're part of the sheeple, if you're part of that in-group thinking, that is manipulation. And once you step out of that, once you start to realize who you are as an individual, once manipulation stops, rejection starts, right? So you got to think about that too. So your relationships may change. I've seen a lot of whistleblowers on the UAP, UFO that have stepped forward. I'm talking professors from Stanford and Harvard. I'm talking, one-star admirals. I'm talking people from NASA. Many of them have been blackballed and lost their careers and their pension, but they're willing to step forward for truth, for transparency. And when you have a lack of transparency, it will be filled by conspiracy. That is just human nature, right? So let me go back over to the Facebook page. Let's see who we got coming in. Since my daughter Stephanie passed February 17th. Yeah, 2 years. But Lori, time is the great illusion, right? 2 years. My brothers have been in the spirit world for over 25 years, but it feels like it happened yesterday, right? That is the trauma and the tragedy that impacts us. But my condolences on her passing, but also the excitement. If you start to look for her, and what I teach on and what I do and what I podcast about all the time, is there only ever a thought away. So if you set an intention, again, going back to us as humans, as beings of light and many great capable things, Lori, if you set your intention to connect with her, and just give us some time, it may not happen right away, but they will show you signs, symbols. The synergy is the blending of our energies and their energies and everything around us. That synergy and the coincidences and synchronicities that Einstein always said was God's way of remaining anonymous, who or whatever God is for you. But just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not here. Like people say, well, heaven is up and hell is down. We can't go up or down metaphysically. We're on a round planet. Heaven isn't a location. Heaven is a vibration. And if you don't believe in vibrations, go to science. Science in our DNA, sliced in half, shows us the flower of life. It shows us the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence. Everything is aligned, and it's right there in your own DNA. It's right there in the own energy of your own heart. It is a world within a world. It is not a location to go sit up in a cloud, which I was taught. But you got to remember, religion has been made by man going back to the earliest religion 6,000 years ago, right? And if you realize that based on where you're raised in the world and what religion you're born into, because you are born into a system, you are born into a barcode that is like a social security number. It's up to you to, first half of your life is to develop the ego. The second half is to let the ego go and know that you can check out of the system. That's why they call it simulation. That's why they call it an alternative reality. That's why they call it the matrix, right? But once you realize that there are worlds within worlds based on vibration, frequency, and energy, you see the world differently. It's really hard to go back or be plugged back into the matrix. So, today's message is all about when you have lack of transparency, and that includes with yourself. We can fill it with our own conspiracy theories, or we fill that vacuum with conspiracy that's not necessarily true. And like I said, I've already seen, just it's so sad that people are still not recovered from this airplane crash, and people are going with all these conspiracy theories. But at the same time, it's also because the institutions that give us this information also have a history of lack of transparency. And again, when there's a lack of transparency, you fill that with conspiracy. So I hope that makes sense. There's a lot still coming down the path, but I do see a lot of good things coming. I always say hope is a verb. It's something in action. And I try to portray that with my work, my articles, my podcasts, my shows, platforms for positivity, the ripple effect of a positive light vibration that goes out to the world. And just try to create a smorgasbord of information that you can like or not like. It's just like a buffet, but we can have fun and prospect and be respectful along the way while we're doing it, right? So thanks for joining me today. Happy end of January. Happy Friday. Like I said, there's no podcast until February 7th, or I'm sorry, February 12th is the next podcast, Inspired Living. You can get Inspired Living wherever you get your favorite podcasts from. FeedSpot has now deemed us a best inspirational and spiritual podcast to follow. So if you want to follow us, love to have you join, or leave a review, because that's how we get our ratings, is people leave reviews, whatnot. So check us out. We'll be back on the air February 12th with another guest. I don't know who yet. I got to look at the schedule. And then we'll also be on the air February 12th and February 26th will be the two shows of Inspired Living. You can also get inspired through your Alexa. Just say, Alexa, open up Inspired Living podcast. That'll play the last episode we did. And we're now streaming through Audible as well. So look for Positive Living, look for My Ugly Mug. And that's a great way to go back and listen to some of the shows that I've talked about. And again, a lot of what's happening now, I talked about, wrote about, and podcasted about starting all the way back in 2017. You can go to marclainhart.com and get my article about, does democracy have an expiration date, that I wrote for Westside Seattle here a couple of years ago. So remember, things don't always happen on the timeline that we expect it to as humans, but I see a lot of horrible things coming for society and mankind, and war and poverty and homelessness and everything I talked about today. But I also see a great coming together with the human consciousness and in us as a human species. We got to remember that we're human beings. We're the same species. It's only when we're born that we're taught to understand division or racism or bigotry or misogyny. These are taught. This is not who we are at our core. So just remember that you're a human being. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. So try to make the best, most positive, uplifting, healing journey you can while you're here, because your greatest commodity is not money, it's time. And so, if you go with those odds that I talked about, the statistics, 150,000 people every single day, not including natural disasters or, mass casualty events, stuff like that. That's just on average, 150,000 people every single day. That breaks down to 6,300 an hour, 105 per minute. That's a lot of people. And at some point, you and I are on that list. We just don't know when that time is going to be called. I think about those people that are just about to land. They're right there. And then your life changes on a dime. And that is life. Life can literally change on a dime. So Colleen says, I saw an article that the world ending meteor will be very close to Earth in 2032. My conspiracy is why NASA was trying to destroy a meteor. Yeah, again, they're not going to tell us because they want to keep control, right, Colleen? They want to keep, again, a couple of years ago when the UAP started to happen, the UFO phenomenon started to happen, and now we have drones all over the place, right? It's just interesting. But they brought 24 theologians together from the top religions to say, what happens to the world if we disclose that we're not alone in the universe, or that there have been a species more intelligent, more advanced than us that have been part of the planet, which isn't hard to do if you think about it, y'all. There's more water on the planet than all the land mass combined. The planet is 70% water. And if you have technology, great place to hide is on the backside of the planet where there's millions and millions of miles of ocean, right? We haven't discovered that part. We know more about our moon than about the 7 to 15%, depending on what research you follow, that we've discovered of our own oceans. We have a whole continent that's at the bottom of the planet. I'm pointing to my globe, like you can see my globe, but I have a globe here. At the bottom of the planet, we have a whole continent that's covered in snow and ice And there's many great mysteries that are going to start to reveal themselves as that ice thaws. And I've done a podcast on it. So you can go back and get these podcasts. The secrets of Antarctica are going to start to be revealed. And I was talking about this years ago. So remember, some people right now that are watching me call me crazy, but then also people call me for advice and contact me for guidance and for a deeper perspective into not necessarily seeing it here, but what we see here. So hi, Karen. Hi, Julie. Thanks for your question. Hi, Dana. How are you feeling? You would laugh, Dana, because I said your name wrong in group the other night. Everybody yelled at me. So hi, Annette. Good to see you. So we're going to get ready for the reading room. So again, the links are in the comment section. Just look for the avatars. Yeah, you're going to have to scroll up. But if you want to call the business line, I've got my phone line. I'm just going to take a second just to just clear my energy. So if you want a reading, a couple ways to do this. You can call in on the phone. That number is 206-588-0661. You can put a comment in the comment section. Yes, I did. You can put a comment in the comment section. Just give me some time. But I'm looking for people that have badges. I work with my subscribers first. So if you're a Diamond Sub subscriber or Patreon, you're going to jump right to the top of the list. Another reason to be a subscriber. If you have a badge that you've been following my work or contributing as a prospector to the journey, I'll see that. You can put a comment in the comment section telling me if you want a card, if you want a book read, and then the Zoom link is now going to be open. So you can come in on the Zoom link, but I ask that you turn the volume down if you're watching the show, or volume down or whatever you're doing, and come on camera so we can have a nice conversation as well. So I'm going to switch over here real quick, but we're going to officially open up the reading room. Like I said, if you want to go up, or Colleen or Jane, if you want to grab those links, look for my avatar for both the link to Zoom and or the phone number. Those links are up above. And then just give me time to catch up on all your comments. If I do miss you, don't take it personally. I'll give you a time at the end to do the bump sequence where you bump your question again in case I missed it, because sometimes the algorithms don't always happen real time. There's sometimes a delay on seeing that, or sometimes I don't see it. But I have my team of moderators that are watching, keeping the comments clean and uplifting and positive, but also responding to your questions as well. So let's just take a second to take a deep breath. I'm going to just take a quick second just to get some coffee here and get my energy so I can work for you and just kind of move into that mindfulness, move into that, stillness, move into that auric field of expansion. And then I'm going to play a fun song. I love this song. It's very upbeat. It's called Tonight We'll, let me get it queued up here, hopefully. Tonight We'll Celebrate. So I'll share that here in just a second. I don't know if you can preview this. Let me see here. Let me see if that'll work here. I was talking about your DNA, and we talked about this in group the other night. Let me see if we can do this. I don't think that we can. Here, I'll do my master class coming up. Maybe. Okay, so give me a second. Reading room will be now open in just about 1 minute.
All around the world.
Yeah.
Come on.
Attention, this is my boarding call. Bags up there against the wall. Step on the flight, be there by the night. Get ready, cause man, we taking off. No doubt this world is mine. Call myself when I lose track of time. No, I'm not new with that. Got my crew in the back, I feel alright.
Take me to my city. Look at the weather, it's so pretty. No need to be quiet, I'm making this live, so won't you rock with me? Just step up to the London town.
What?
Look at me now, I shut it down. Gonna make this world my own, won't stop, next stop, this party don't go.
1,000 miles away. We don't care what the people say,
We don't care.
cause love will lead the way.
Let it out, let it out.
Tonight we'll celebrate.
Come on, let's go.
Tonight we'll celebrate. Tonight we'll celebrate.
Move, move, step in the scene. Life life is a journey, and this is my dream. Doing it for UK, LA, Miami, straight to the Philippines. Every city is a dance floor. Traveling the world like we on tour. That's right, I do it for B-More. My hometown, it's all yours.
We're 1,000 miles away. We don't care what the people say.
We don't care.
'Cause love will lead the way.
That's right.
Tonight we'll celebrate.
Passport doesn't expire. International down to the wire. All this love got me on fire. Living my dreams past my desire. Let's go.
Okay, welcome back. Let me get some coffee and get my energy up, and we're ready to work. What do you got for me? So Dana said, I'd love a reading. What kind of reading would you love, my friend? Again, phone lines open now, 206-588-0661. Zoom link is there. If you want to click in the Zoom link, it'll bring you live. Well, put you in the waiting room, but I can bring you from the waiting room in. And or comment if you want a card, what deck you want, 1 through 14. I've got 14 decks already shuffled, ready to go, or a book reading, which I'll ask for a page number. So a couple ways to do this. A couple of you tuning in today. Thanks for joining me here. Today's message, I put that picture if I found it. In every box of tinfoil they buy, there's a free hat. Tinfoil hat, you'll get it. But thanks for joining today. Today's message is all about when there's a lack of transparency, it's usually filled by conspiracy. And we have a lot of conspiracy going on, but we also have a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and lack of transparency, which is driving society in a very dangerous, hostile, violent way, which we're better than that, y'all. If we're going to ascend and transcend and bring in quantum mechanics and robotics and AI, then we need to keep pace with that as well as that evolution goes. So that song was called Tonight We'll Celebrate by Jagmac, Jagmac. And get past stuck emotions, you call on how. Okay. Well, let's see what you're allowing. Let's go to the I Allow deck. So Dana, what I want you to do is we're going to work in a digital aspect, the digital metaverse, which is funny because Google has come out and said they have proof of metaverse, alternative frequency universes. I'm waiting for the proof to be revealed, but their AI model said that there is multidimensional theory, which Einstein was talking about years ago. So again, things that are talked about as science fictions usually become science fact. You know, it may take 50, 80, 100 years, but it's just interesting. Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? So if you're curious like me as a prospector, join us here on Fridays, have fun. Reading rooms open, phone lines open, Zoom rooms open. I got your deck, Dana. So when you hear the word stop here, type it out on your keyboard, stop, hit enter, and that's the card that we'll choose for you. Because what we're doing is we're giving you the free will and choice to mandate and to manifest your message, but it's from the I Allow deck. So whenever you're ready, I'll give you about 10 to 15 seconds. Take a deep breath in, ask, believe, receive, perceive, all through the power and divinity of breath. And when I see the word stop in the comment section, and this goes for everybody else, you can start picking your decks. You can tell me what card, what number you want in the deck. You say, I want number 23, and I'll count that 23. Right now, I'm just shuffling So Dana, when you're ready, hit the word stop, type it in, hit enter, please. Dana, 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 Dana. Hello. Stop. Thank you, dear. This gives you the free will and the choice based on the message. Here's your message. But it also, I know, is that you're still interacting with the show because people drop in, drop out. That's part of social media. That's fine. But your card here today is I allow myself to love myself. Interesting card you just chose. So your message for today, based on healing, based on transformation, based on the change of your alchemy, which is your spiritual makeup of all your cells, the power of love. And so there's a chandelier. I don't know if the chandelier means anything to you, but obviously the symbol of the heart and holding the heart in your hands. But this energy here reminds me of spirit in action. And again, this like a portal, if you will, which, I do believe portals are real. In fact, a lot of the scientists are saying that they believe that time travel is real. It's just a matter of engineering now and understanding how we develop the future of our physics and quantum mechanics. So, but does that make sense, Dana? I allow myself to love myself. So when this card is pulled based on your free will and choice, that's saying that you're not loving yourself enough, and we have to show compassion for ourselves, especially if we're going through healing, periods in our journey. We have to show love for self first, so we can show up for those in life later. So I hope that makes sense. You sure can, Lori. What card would you like? You have 14 decks, so you can give me a number 1 through 14. And if you want to card a certain number out of that deck, or I can shuffle, and if I shuffle, you say stop. So we're in the diamonds, y'all. Let's go. What do you got for me? You can come in Zoom live. You ask me. Be respectful. Don't go crazy on me. There are things I know, but I don't know everything. But I can at least help you prospect for what we're searching for. Some of you may not know, but right off the top of my shoulder here, right there, is a multimeter. So I've now been setting it up, and if you ever see it change, it goes from green to yellow to red. If you see that number or you see that color jump, I try to keep an eye on it, but also if you see it and I don't, let me know, because that's also measuring the energy of what's not seen around me. And a lot of times when I'm working, the spirit world will come up into my auric field, right? We have an auric field, or if you don't want to use a spiritual term, we call it auric field. If you want to use a scientific term, it's called the HEF, the human energy field. Great book read. If you want scientific, logical, analogical ways of thinking, this is a great book. We start off each year going back to our basics of just the HEF, the human energy field as known by science. But it's a great guidebook. It's pretty thick. I've had it for years. There's just so much good scientific knowledge in here, going back, from the chakras to here's a good chapter right here: history of the scientific investigation into the human energy field, right? So there's just a lot of stuff that's waiting to be discovered, those hidden gems that I'm talking about all the time, not just the diamond within. But I work with a lot of different tools that are very ancient, nothing new, nothing scary, nothing nefarious. All right, Lori wants 14. Here's the 14th deck. Tell me, do you want a card? Do you want a certain number out of this deck? Or would you like me to shuffle and you type in stop? I'm shuffling anyway, but go ahead and just either give me a number out of the deck or say stop while I'm shuffling, and we'll go there. So again, next Friday is Diamonds Day. If you're a subscriber, get on board. Get over to my YouTube channel. We're having a lot of fun over there, growing. We're over 30,000 subscribers, having fun prospecting. I'll have a new video up later this week. And then if you're not on my newsletter, get my newsletter here, because that's going to be coming out here either today or tomorrow. I'm going to try to get it out today if I can. All right. 7. All right. So here's the deck, 14. We're going 7 cards in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, I don't know what this card is. So here's your card. It's number 15 in numerology. So what that means in numerology, 15, the 1 is independence, your journey. The 5 is what we often refer to as freedom, love, and adventure. And then you add up those 2 numbers to create 6. The 6 is all about compassion for self, compassion for others, compassion for the planet, compassion for nature, compassion for animals. But it's all about the DNA. It says, God of the granite and the rose, soul of the sparrow and the bee, The mighty tide of being flows to all thy creations, Lord, from thee. So it's an old hymn from the Spiritual National Union that I'm a member of. It's an old out of an old hymn book, but what it says, it's all about purpose, beauty, creation, balance, nature, spirit, earth, power, light. So, use that information for your journey ahead. Use those numbers as guideposts, 1s and 5. I always say that there's a pattern that takes place. I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, that we see 2 more events like what we saw with the plane crash in DC. It wouldn't surprise me if they come in 3s. And I witnessed that as a first responder long before my days of being a spiritualist, or a psychic or a medium or intuitive, whatever you want to call me. And so I always say, pay attention to the patterns, because the pattern shows you that there's a bigger picture going on. But Lori, does that make sense for your journey? Pay attention to the 1, the 5, and the 6, the 3 numbers this week, because they will show themselves to you. Again, don't expect a big booming voice from the sky, y'all. If man created God 6,000 years ago, chances are you're not going to get a big booming voice from the sky. And if you do, and you didn't die, please reach out to me and let me know, because I'd love to interview you on Inspired Living and what that was like. But it's very rare, when people say, as a medium, do you actually see the people that have transferred over through death? And I say no, because it's either objective or subjective. And objective is actually see them with a physical eye. Subjective is communicating with them through my abilities of clairsentience or clairvoyance or claircognizance, and just having that awareness of what they're trying to say to me, because they don't have a vibration off a vocal cord, right? So how do you talk to somebody? So these are just tools that we can use that are very ancient, have been around for a long time. If you take the time to disconnect, make the time to reconnect, you sit still, the journey unfolds in some pretty amazing ways. That's why I've upgraded my meditation mat, so I now have a jack back to help me with my back. But sit in that stillness, sit in that silence. Ask your loved ones to give you a message, that sign, that symbol, that synergy, or that synchronicity. But it's usually, you're not going to usually see them here objectively, and you're not going to get a big booming voice that hits your eardrum that says, "Hello, Mark, I am here." It's very subtle. My mentor would always say they come in like a lamb, not like a lion. You've got to get yourself to that point where you're actually calm and quiet and listening, because the lion makes itself known, but the lamb does not. And so you want to get to that level, that frequency, if you will. So any other questions for me today before I sign off? Again, my newsletter will be coming out for February tomorrow, or later this afternoon. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got the masterclass starting on February 2nd. That link is also in the comment section. That will be in my newsletter from February 2nd through February 11th. It's a free masterclass. You just have to sign up for Katie's email. And then I have my Conscious Wellness Expo event coming up in April. Going to be traveling a little bit in March. Nothing really scheduled. I'm still kind of marinating. Do I want to do something on TikTok Live? Do I want to do an experience the etheric workshop and have people work with their medium abilities? I don't know. I'm just kind of getting over recovery and rehab from major surgery. So, but it will all come into play. Everything, we always talk about the way knows the way. We try to figure it out as humans, but we don't necessarily. Sometimes we just need to sit back and enjoy the ride, because the way does know the way. And when you believe that, and you subscribe to that, and you blend with that, with your intentions, your energies, your thoughts, your words, your actions, that's how you start to manifest a change. Or as I like to say, the 3C's life: make a choice, take a chance, see the change. Otherwise, it doesn't usually happen, because you are the power of your universe. Your focus determines your reality, if you will. So you're welcome, Lori. 156, yes, compassion nature. Been praying for compassion a lot lately. God knows I need it. You bring messages of hope, and like the dream catchers. Oh, thanks, Lori. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend. And again, y'all, thanks for being here. We try to be here on Fridays. This is my way of giving back. This is my pro bono. Great way to get a reading, or get a connection, or get an inspiration, or get some guidance without having to go to my website and book a reading, which is much more expensive. But again, we'll have Diamonds Day next week. The first Friday of every month is dedicated to my Patreon prospectors and Diamond Hub subscribers. And then we'll be back on the air February 12th and February 26th with guests. So I'm looking forward to those conversations and those topics. And Inspired Living, we cover everything in our 9 seasons. We've got over 250 episodes. It covers everything from meditation to metaphysics to medicine to mindfulness to medieval times. I mean, we've covered a lot of different topics, and I've really had a lot of fun these last almost decade doing the podcast. Again, if you want to learn more about who I am, what I do, get my book, go to marclainhart.com, or you can just internet search the Intuitive Prospector, and I will pop up, and we can do some prospecting together. So good morning to my mom who's just joining. Morning, Mom. Good Friday morning to you as well. You're welcome, Lori. All right, so last call. Zoom room is open. Come on in. You want to give me a call on my business line, 206-588-0661. Or happy Chinese New Year as well. Yeah, that was yesterday. So, or 29th, right? Was it 29th? Not on my calendar here. So sometimes I have the Chinese New Year. And keep looking up. There's a lot going on in our world, more to come. So I always say wait, watch, and witness, because there's a lot of things that are unfolding. But again, today's message, when there's a lack of transparency, it's going to be filled, that vacuum is going to be filled with conspiracy based on, everything I talked about today. So last call. Comment in the comment section if you want me to pull a book reading, a card reading, or ask me a question. I give you my own intuitive feedback and thoughts on that. Make sure to subscribe so you can get because sometimes I don't always go live. I go live on Fridays, but I also I do pop-ups from time to time through my social media feeds, Instagram, TikTok. I am on a new, we do have Inspired Living on a new platform while I'm thinking about it. It's called Blue Sky. And if you want to join me on Blue Sky, it's for the podcast. It is the handle, just like we're on X and we're on Instagram under Inspired For Us. That's the number 4. But if you want to join me on this new platform, which is, to me, I'm really enjoying it because it doesn't the algorithms. It's more of a platform based on positivity, not a lot of missive rates. It's a different social media platform, but it's called Blue Sky, and we are now officially have the account Inspired For Us at bluesky.social. So that's our new social page that we are now a part of. If you would like to join me over there and follow, I'll be posting a lot. I'm moving more away from Twitter, X. Not really liking the content and the censorship that's taken place and the algorithms, but at the same time, a lot of the social media is like that. So just be mindful, use your discernment. Watch local media, don't watch cable news, because if you don't know this, local media has to correspond under the Fairness Doctrine Act of 1949. Cable news does not. If you're not familiar with that, do some prospecting to understand that diamond of telling the truth under professional journalistic standards. So, but all right, I don't see anybody else coming in. If I did miss you, or if your comment did not pop up, this is the time where you type it again, put bump with an asterisk, and then put your question in case I did miss it, because sometimes I don't see all the comments real time. Speaking of algorithms, speaking on, about controlling platforms or whatnot. So again, you can join me on TikTok. I will get over there to do a live at some point. I just need to feel it. So, all right. So again, today's message, if you don't have transparency, you're going to fill it with conspiracy. So pay attention to the days, the weeks, and months ahead, because there's some very transformative, challenging times that we are now in. Many things you'll agree with, many things you won't agree with, but try to observe versus absorb. That's probably the healthiest way to do this in the spiritual pathway. So, all right, last call. Zoom room, phone line, comment. Zoom room, phone line, comment. And again, I'll have my new show over on my YouTube channel probably next week. I didn't have a lot of time this week. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. Let's get a good song to close this out. So with the ripple effect, because everything we do is a ripple effect. Okay, so we got that queued up. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you're joining us, because we have people come in from all over the planet. One day at a time, find power in the present moment, plant seeds in the present moment for the future you want tomorrow, because it's a reminder that yesterday is history, tomorrow is the mystery, today is the gift. That's why we often refer to it as the present moment. Just know that you're loved. Just know that there is unity through community, and you can always find your way here on Fridays at 10 a.m. on the Intuitive Prospector page. And then, if, like I said, if you want to become a subscriber, Diamonds Day, first Friday of every month, is dedicated to my subscribers for readings, healings, messages, whatever that may be, to help you in the journey of life, because life is hard as it is, and we could use all the help we can get along the way. So I appreciate you. Like I said, just when there's something that's not transparent, don't try to fill it with your own conspiracy theory. But it's something that we do, and it's been happening throughout history. So I appreciate you. Sending you much love and blessings and hope and positive outcomes and whatever that may be for you. So until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond within and the many hidden gems that are all around us. So I'll see you next time here on Metaphysical Meetup with Marc Live. Have a great rest of your Friday, a great weekend, and a wonderful week ahead. Take care, everybody. Namaste.
It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. A ripple in time that turns to a wave. You either surf it or it crashes down. Choose your adventure, cause eventually you're ashes. So I live for my passions. Ain't no life passing me by. I'm all about action. We can talk about it later when we feel the effects, cause they were lasting. Putting in the work now, so later we can kick back. I ain't got no 401k, just a click track. Making something out of nothing, and that something gives back. Residual energy, call that the feedback. Loop it up and make a new arrangement, then bump that to infinity and back to the present, where we put it on wax so we can deliver the message to the people tuning in on the earbuds, or if they hear it on the speakers in the big club. These days it's rare to hear something unique. Copycats copying copycats and sounding weak. I'm here to leave an impression, cause it seems the rap scene is in a depression. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. Smooth as glass, perfect reflection, placid. Had to shake it up, change the perception. Laughing instead of crying and complaining, control the emotions. Even when it's raining, the grass is growing, and I'm knowing that it takes hardship to build character. That's why I'm breathing it in, don't need an air filter. Building up resistance, immune to the garbage. Sticking to my heart, that's the life of an artist. Hardest thing I've done is stay true to it. A lot of cats fall off, don't follow through with it. I try to not get lost when I'm looking for myself. The moral compass guides us to find the true north. Stick to the path, I stay on course. Of course I lost my way a couple times to find my voice. Now that I found it, I'ma use it, make some noise. Better yet, some music so our souls can rejoice.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the intuitive prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.